All right, welcome in. 49ers post-game 30-13 over the Patriots. Wasn't perfect, but it's September 29th and the calendar about to turn to October. I will say that was exactly what the 49ers needed. We need perspective here, and they look good in week one. The defense did not look good at all, was not good at all in weeks 2 and 3. Brock Purdy has been good throughout this season, so the 49ers needed to show that they're on the path to establishing some balance. And they definitely did that with their defensive performance today. In fact, that's what I wrote about for the San Francisco Standard. The article is up. Mike has put the link into the description. The headline, how the 49ers defense talked themselves into a turnaround game. And we can talk about the 3 meetings that fueled the 49ers defense. So go ahead and check out that link. If you put it into your browser, then I think it will prompt you for your email address and you could sign up and all these will be delivered to your inbox. But I walked straight into the 49ers locker room after the game today here at Levi's Stadium. I walked straight up to Fred Warner and began chatting with him because I was really, really curious about the very fiery speech that he gave about 90 minutes before kickoff. Warner always gathers his teammates before they put their full uniforms on. They're still in their sweatpants there. They're doing the pregame stretches. But I had never seen him as animated during that team huddle as he was today. And he confirmed to me in the locker room that today required a little extra oomph. There was a little bit more urgency. Keep in mind that the 49ers defense ranked number 24 in the NFL entering this game against the Patriots. And nobody is pretending that New England has a world-beating offense, but they had a rugged run game, and they threatened the 49ers exactly where the 49ers had struggled most. I talked so much this week about the 49ers' number 28 run defense by EPA per play. There was a sense of urgency from Fred Warner. Then there was a sense of urgency from Nick Bosa, who held a meeting with the 49ers defensive linemen on Saturday night, telling them, hey, we might have lost Javon Hargrave, but I still believe in the depth of this unit. And there was also the standard meeting on Thursday, the ball meeting, right? It's run by Brandon Staley now. The former ball father, Nick Sorensen, is now the 49ers' new defensive coordinator. So Brandon Staley now runs the meeting that focuses on generating takeaways and avoiding giveaways. The 49ers took all 3 of these meetings to heart and applied them in this game against the Patriots, where they forced those 3 takeaways. They, one was an interception from Fred Warner. There was almost a second interception that Malik Mustafa couldn't haul in. That was a true fastball that was thrown from Jacoby Brissett off of his receiver's hands. And then Malik Mustafa, the rookie, his first career start, he settled into the game. I have a little bit more. I talked to him. I'll talk to you about that conversation in a little bit. But you had those 2 turnover-worthy situations through the pass game, and then you had the 49ers stripping the ball on the other side. Keep in mind that this team led the NFL in turnover differential over the past 2 seasons. And obviously, the first 3 games, the start wasn't quite as good for the 49ers, where they were this imbalanced team that was playing good offensively, but poorly defensively and poorly on special teams. And today they obviously had the big special teams gaffe with the Isaac Guerrero fumble. That's another thing that we'll talk about in a little bit, and another thing that must be corrected by the 49ers moving forward. But during that 3-game start, they hadn't gotten the same takeaway numbers that they had over the course of the past 2 years when they actually led the NFL in interceptions. So that's why Fred Warner's pick 6 was such a huge statement deal today. And that was a Hall of Fame caliber play. Fred Warner is going to be wearing the gold jacket one day in Canton. And when they play his Hall of Fame highlight reel, it's going to include what you saw today on the field. I mean, it was awesome, right? He fell to his ground. He said it got the wind knocked out of him as he fell down to the ground. Was in the right spot to intercept Jacoby Brissett. That's an experience type of play. You know exactly where you need to be relative to the hashes. You watch a ton of film if you're Fred Warner. You take it so seriously that you make your luck. You find yourself into the right place at the right time. But wind knocked out of him a bit as he falls to the ground after the pick. Still has the wherewithal and the toughness and obviously the adrenaline flowing to get up and sprint around the edge, down the sideline, outrun the defense. I mean, the guy is a freak as far as athleticism goes, but outrun the defense well, I guess it was the offense at the time, but technically the offense, but they're playing defense at that time. Once Fred Warner has the ball, invoke some of your tight end playing days. Warner played some tight end in high school, and then dive toward the pylon to finish it. Brandon Staley, in the ball meetings that the 49ers have every Thursday, has shown the 49ers data that indicates a team with a defensive touchdown wins almost 100% of the time. Fred Warner brought this up, and Sam Okuanu brought this up in the locker room. That stuck with them. They listened to Brandon Staley. They love the analytics that he brings. And they said, Fred Warner said he was thinking about this as he's returning the pick. He's like, yeah, well, if our defense scores here, especially given some of the red zone struggles that the offense had been going through at the time, we got a really good chance of winning this game. And he would not be denied. He dove toward the pylon and he scored that touchdown. The rest was history for Fred Warner. So what you saw out on that field is going to be played in Fred Warner's highlight tape. The last pick six that we had seen before that from Fred was in 2019 in December against the Rams. Remember, he was kind of sitting on that screen pass from Jared Goff out to the far sideline, and he picked it off and ran back. A lot easier run back than the one today from Fred Warner. But you could also look at the Talanoa Hufanga pick six against the Rams, which was a lot like that first Fred Warner one. The Talanoa Hufanga one didn't come until 2022, right? Yeah, that was 2022, a little bit after Fred against the Rams. That was against Matthew Stafford. Anyway, to me, this was one of the more spectacular pick sixes that I've covered in person. They gave the 49ers a 20-0 lead. They did not relinquish it, and I thought it was a perfect embodiment of the three meetings that they had on defense. Fred Warner firing the guys up. He was obviously ready to play. Nick Bosa telling the defensive line that he believed in them. And you know what? On that Warner pick six, it was Malik Collins that delivered the pressure for San Francisco and got all up in. Actually, it might have been Leonard Floyd. Malik Collins made so many plays today. I lost track. I'm going to have to watch the replay of this, and I'll get back to you later on this tomorrow. I hate when my memory fails me at crucial moments like this when we're live with thousands of people watching, but that's just sometimes how it works. It was either Leonard Floyd or Malik Collins. One of those two defensive linemen, I believe it was Floyd coming off the edge, the more that I think of it. One of those two defensive linemen was able to win, and it was Floyd. Relentlessly, it's coming back to me now, get to Jacoby Brissett and force that hurried throw that Fred Warner picked off. And because of that, I thought of the defensive line meeting that Nick Bosa held last night, where he told the defensive lineman, hey, I still believe in the depth of this group. I know that we just lost Javon Hargrave, but we need to keep on plugging forward. That was a true leadership moment from Nick Bosa. I thought it showed up in the way that the 49ers pass rush was able to deliver today through Leonard Floyd. And it wasn't just Floyd who's being paid $10 million a year. It was the interior linemen. I talked about Malik Collins delivering. Unfortunately, Jordan Elliott suffered a knee injury. They don't think it's an ACL, but we'll probably have more of an update on Jordan Elliott tomorrow. But you saw Evan Anderson, the undrafted rookie out of Florida Atlantic, enter this game. I thought he was super, super impressive. He was taking on double teams from the very start. The run defense gave up only 3 yards per rush, I think 76 total rushing yards against the team that we knew was going to bruise with Ramondre Stevenson. And then there was Sam Okuanu, who has one of the best stories that you'll hear. I mean, there's so many cool stories. These guys, to play football at the highest level, to do anything at the highest level, to report at the highest level, to play football at the highest level, to do investment banking at the highest level. You've got to perfect your craft. You have to be a type A individual who is willing to put in the hours, who's willing to put in the work, who's willing to overcome adversity. And Sam Okuanu is one such guy. I mean, and today he had the punch out, right, on Ramondre Stevenson. He credited Fred Warner for his punch out skills. I guess those have carried over to the 49ers defense, but there was the punch out play today from Sam Okuanu early in this game that got the 49ers party started when it came to not only stopping the run, but getting all those turnovers in this football game. I think turnovers tend to happen in bunches. And uh, I just thought that it was a tremendous play from a hand-eye coordination perspective, because Okuanu was running the opposite way of Ramondre Stevenson, right? He's crashing in from the defensive line. Ramondre is coming up field and he's trying to hit the hole hard. So that's a split second that you have to hit the ball. And somehow Sam Okuanu was able to get the job done. It was really, really cool to talk to him in the locker room afterwards, because, I mean, this is a guy who was born in Liberia. He said today that there was a civil war going on in Liberia, West African country, where he was born, when he was born. And at age 12, he immigrated to the United States with his mom. Actually lived outside of Boston in Lowell, Massachusetts. Okuanu didn't start playing football until he was a senior in high school. So then he went to Maryland, and I mean, he built himself a nice college career at Maryland, but still, because he didn't start playing until later, he went undrafted. The Tennessee Titans picked him up. And although he was with Tennessee for that 2022 season, he was cut at the end of 2023 training camp by the Titans. They told him that they needed room for another offensive lineman. He went without a team there for several months, and then Sam Okuanu signed with the 49ers last January on a futures contract. So he couldn't play with the 49ers in the last playoffs, but he was signed for the 2024 offseason. He, despite a hamstring injury, worked his ass off over the course of training camp to earn a spot on this 49ers practice squad. Just yesterday, Sam Okuanu got the promotion from the practice squad to the 53-man roster. Obviously comes with a big pay bump. It's like $300,000 a year for the practice squad at most, maybe a little bit less than that, to $1 million per year or so for the 53-man roster. He gets that big pay bump. I mean, huge moment for him in his career as he's fighting through adversity, scrapping and clawing his way to make it to a level of prominence. And then on the very next day, he delivers for the 49ers. And Nick Bosa said he probably only played 15 snaps, but Sam Okuanu was impactful on 10 of those 15 snaps. I thought that's what this game was all about. It was about the 49ers evolving as a defense, taking a couple bad games, starting to show what that identity is going to be. And you have to work through adversity. You have to find your way into that identity. And Sam Okuanu, to me, really embodied that. So listen to Sam in the locker room talking about his fight through adversity after the game.
My whole life really been adversity. Shit, I grew up in Liberia, west coast of Africa. I was born during the Civil War out there. Me and my mom migrated to America at the age of 12. Started playing football my senior year in high school, man. Went to a couple of junior colleges because I was fresh to the game. You know, I'm very new to football. I'm still learning the game of football, man. And shit, got to Maryland, had to wait. And then even coming out the league, man, I feel like I should have been a draft pick, but shit, God had other plans for me, man. So, and then getting signed to Tennessee and getting cut and being here and just kind of grinding my way through the rotation. But I love it all, man, because at the end of the day, it makes a great story, man. And I'm the guy who kind of pride himself on facing things hard on and just head on and just, you know, attacking the adversity, man, because come out the other side victorious.
Come out the other side victorious. Sam Okuanu definitely came out the other side victorious today. Well, it wasn't just him, right? It wasn't just him. He had the big strip of Ramondre Stevenson early. Malik Collins fell on it. Collins also had a nice game for the 49ers. Kevin Givens had 2.5 sacks for San Francisco. I mean, this was a unit-wide effort. And if a team is going to develop a title caliber defense to pair with the MVP caliber play that we're seeing from Brock Purdy on the other side of the ball, especially if there have been injuries, and there has been one to Javon Hargrave, it's going to take the whole unit. The 49ers have superstars at the center of this. Future Hall of Famer in Fred Warner. Then you got Nick Bosa, who might be working on a Hall of Fame career of his own. He's a little bit earlier in that process than Nick Bosa, but you've got two absolute centerpieces, right? And then the difference between the contenders and the pretenders in the NFL is the depth, which is why the 49ers' success finding these diamonds in the rough, finding these undrafted free agents or lower round draft picks, which is why that's so important to how much sustained success they've had over the past few years. It's not just about a few stars. And I think a lot of fans and a lot of media get that wrong a lot. They just focus on the few stars of a team. It could be the fantasy football effect, right? But it's about, the entire outfit out there. This is a hard sport. It's hard to win in the NFL. It is a marathon that you have to run like a sprint. Where, I just watched Sunday Night Football. There was a brutal play where Josh Allen looked like he might have torn his elbow. I hope he's okay, but he got hit like Brock Purdy did in the NFC Championship game on the arm, and he fumbled the ball. And then at the same time, he got decked, and it looked like there was some whiplash on the play. And it's just, you watch it, you're like, ooh, I mean, that's a miniature car accident happening on the football field. And these types of hits and this type of contact is happening all over the field for 60 minutes over the course of a 17-game regular season, plus the playoffs. And the 49ers have played 20 games in all the past 3 years. And there's young, fresh guys entering the league every year with high quality with high quality coaching. And, this is the pinnacle of football, right? So it is hard to sustain a high level of play. It's probably one of the more difficult things in team sports. So for the 49ers to be able to accomplish that this year and go and win a Super Bowl, it's not going to be just Fred Warner and Nick Bosa leading the defense. You're going to have your Sam Okuanus. You're going to have your Kevin Givenses, right? You're going to have your Malik Collins. You're going to have all those guys pulling weight as a collective. And I thought that's what today's game was all about. I've got a good stat for you. Before garbage time, before that last drive from the New England Patriots, I think there was a 50-yard gain on that drive. The 49ers were allowing only 2.8 yards per play. That would have been the lowest yards per play allowed of the entire Shanahan-Lynch era. The lowest, and it was 3.5 yards per play because of the 50-yard gain after. But 3.5 is still good. It still is indicative of how strong of a team-wide defensive performance this was, and that's what the 49ers needed. But 2.8 would have been historically good. And I'm not saying that was the best defensive performance of the Shanahan-Lynch era. In fact, the best one, 2.8, came when they beat the Packers 37-8 on this field, Sunday Night Football in 2019. Now, I still think that was the best defensive performance that we've seen from the 49ers under Shanahan and Lynch. But I give you these types of numbers as perspective, because perspective is important for us to understand where the 49ers are and what they're building toward. We can go back to this article that is up on the Standard, and you should go check it out. I'll show you the end of it, then I'll show you a couple cool stats. But right here, somebody asked Fred Warner about the burden of integrating new players into the mix, because the 49ers have quite a few of them defensively. And he said, it's not a burden. It's an opportunity. I was excited from the moment we got all the new guys that we did this offseason because of what they bring to our team and to the defense. The opportunity is to continue to build cohesion and chemistry amongst the group. I think the best teams are the ones that are the closest. I know that doesn't happen overnight. We've got to continue to find that closeness as a team, as a defense. And I feel the more we do that, the better we're going to play and the better product we're going to put on the field. So you can go ahead and check out all of this article. The link is in the description up on the Standard. If you're watching on Twitter, I'm talking about the description on YouTube. So go ahead and check that out. But now see this, NFL team tiers. You want to be further to the right and further up. Last week, the 49ers were in the Ravens spot right here. I don't think the Ravens have been updated yet after they beat the Bills. Neither have the Bills. So the Bills are going to come back down to earth. They're not going to be alone in tier one. The Ravens are going to improve after that Sunday Night Football game. But what the 49ers defense did, because the sample size is still pretty small, they raised their dot or their logo up above average today to the upper right. You want to be in the upper right. Offense is horizontal axis. Defense is vertical axis. And here the 49ers are in the upper right. Same tier as a team like the Minnesota Vikings. By the way, Vikings beat the Green Bay Packers today and they were up 28-0 at one point. That's looking more and more like a quality loss for the 49ers. People are saying, oh, well, they got upset by the Vikings. Yeah, well, by the Vegas odds, they got upset. But Minnesota might be one of the best teams in the NFC. So that's not looking terrible. I still think the loss to the Rams was really bad. They're down here for the 49ers. But if that was what caused the 49ers to kick it into gear defensively, it might end up worth it for San Francisco, because this was definitely their best defensive performance so far this season. So right now you're looking at the 49ers as a tier 2, tier 3 team, but we're still early in the year and they could still continue climbing. Next week they play the Cardinals, who are not playing good defense. Cardinals have an above average offense, but today they just got roasted by Washington. Look at that outlier of a team, Washington. Really good offense, really bad defense so far for the Commanders. That's fun. That means Jaden Daniels is going to have to air it out, do a lot for the Commanders. But my main point is that as the 49ers tried to find their identity as a football team, that they obviously want to look like something that's reminiscent of what they put on the tape in years prior. And I think that today, defensively, even against an overmatched opponent, they started to show that. And guess what? The Rams were also overmatched last week, and the 49ers didn't look nearly as good on the defensive side of the ball. So today was definitely a step in the right direction ahead of Arizona coming to town next week. How about we talk about Brock Purdy's historic start? This is Purdy as he compares to some other quarterbacks, all of whom underneath Brock Purdy will be in the Hall of Fame one day, by the way. Warner and Marino already are. But the highest passer rating through 25 starts since the 1970 AFL-NFL merger belongs to Brock Purdy himself. 112.6. I think it's poetic that it just edges out Patrick Mahomes at 112.5. But Purdy, Mahomes, Warner, Marino was Purdy's favorite quarterback as far as a guy who tape he watched growing up. It was his dad's favorite quarterback. That's why Brock Purdy wears number 13. So pretty neat for Purdy to be on top of that list. This is the performance today from Brock Purdy. That is a high-level performance. 0.23 expected points added per play, over 7 expected points added for the game. Look at the average depth of target. The average throw, or the average depth of target, was 14.2 yards downfield. Brock Purdy was really airing it out today. Good completion percentage over expectation. The QBR above average at 60.2. It wasn't great today, in large part because of the interception that he threw. He didn't see the safety. I guess there was a bust, and the 49ers did not space New England's defense out the way that they wanted to. I thought it looked like he was trying to force the ball into Brandon Ayuk. Maybe there was a little bit of that going on as well. Ultimately, though, what happened on that play is that Brock Purdy threw a football that he probably regretted throwing. But outside of that, Brock Purdy was spectacular today. I mean, dime after dime after dime downfield. Keep in mind that Brock was the NFL's top quarterback as far as deep passes went last year. The amount of misinformation regarding Brock Purdy's early career has been staggering. It's just people trying to discredit him left and right, but the narratives have just been laughably bad. The worst one has been, in my opinion, Brock Purdy doesn't throw deep, because he was quite literally the most accurate deep passer on Pro Football Focus's NFL record last year. 60% completion percentage on balls that traveled 20 or more yards down the air. Tim Kawakami wrote for us at the Standard on Brock Purdy. So go ahead and check out Tim's article. So we have both my article, which is right here on Fred Warner and the defense, and the one on Brock Purdy from Tim. I love the headline here. If Brock Purdy has any limits, we haven't seen them yet. Brock Purdy talked about his 10-yard split today in the post-game press conference, which essentially verifies that Brock Purdy watches the channel. Brock Purdy's in tune with the stuff that we talk about. I know, I was the one that first brought attention to this 10-yard split of Brock Purdy's, which is faster than Christian McCaffrey's. It's faster than Deebo Samuel's. It's really something that's jaw-dropping because Purdy isn't that fast on a 40-yard track. But he is extremely quick, and he moves. He's one of the best scramblers in the NFL. And this is something that when I've said it before, and I said this early in Brock Purdy's tenure as the 49ers starter, and it was extremely controversial. For some reason, I got blowback on something that's just a fact. This is something that I think is becoming accepted now. You watch what Purdy did today, and I don't think, and I'm going to rewatch the game, so I don't want to put the offensive line on blast until I actually watch the tape because I believe in truthful evaluations. But to me, the naked eye seemed to indicate that there were some rushers that were beating the 49ers front and getting to Brock Purdy, but not quite to Brock Purdy because he would spin out of traffic. He would find a way to use his legs to get a first down. He would find a way to escape the rush and then, recenter his pivot and throw downfield. A lot of what we're seeing from Brock Purdy is stuff that prime Russell Wilson used to do. And prime Russell Wilson was also a very good deep passer. And Brock Purdy has the highest deep pass completion percentage on record from last season. And today he was delivering downfield as well. So be sure to check out Tim's article on Purdy. The start has been downright special. Again, the highest quarterback rating through 25 starts since the 1970 merger belongs to Brock Purdy. As long as the 49ers have a quarterback that's playing at an MVP level, and Purdy was doing that last year, Purdy's doing it again this season, they will have a chance to win the Super Bowl. How good of a chance is going to depend on how well the 49ers play defense and how well they play special teams. It's complementary football. Now, the special teams today, the big gaffe in this game was Isaac Guerendo running into a teammate, fumbling the ball. He wasn't on the 49ers' next kick return for obvious reasons. That's something that has to be fixed. That is 3 straight games with the 49ers seeing just devastating gaffes on special teams. I don't know how else to put it. Special teams cannot threaten to lose you the game. It's great if it can win you the game. That's not mandatory, though, especially when you're so good at quarterback and when your defense has as much potential as the 49ers do. But you can't have special teams coming in there and throwing a thorn into things on a weekly basis. And that, unfortunately, has been the case early this season. That, to me, is the biggest red flag for the 49ers so far this year. Because I really think that this defense deserves the benefit of the doubt. They can play themselves out of the early rut. We've already seen it. They're an above average defense after just one better game. Now they face a tougher offense in Kyler Murray in Arizona last week. I fully get that. So it's going to be an escalating test, but a lot of this is energy. A lot of this is confidence. A lot of this is cohesion. And the 49ers took that step on the defensive side today. On the offensive side of the football, they've already been performing well. I think they took another step in the right direction. But special teams, they have limited opportunities, so gaffes look, are more glaring than they are at any other position. But as long as they keep on happening, it's an issue. And it's an issue that the 49ers have to keep on working at. Now, we have to continue to talk about the 49ers offense and Jordan Mason. Brock Purdy is number 1 in the NFL in passing yardage right now. And Jordan Mason is number 1 in rushing yardage. Meanwhile, Jawan Jennings, who had another big game today, is number 3 in receiving yardage. So think about that. Purdy, 7th round pick, number 1 in pass yardage in the entire NFL. Mason, undrafted free agent, number 1 in rush yardage. Jennings, 7th round pick, number 3 in receiving yardage. Isn't that something? The 49ers' ability to find diamonds in the rough. And Fred Warner, we talk about him as a future Hall of Famer. Let's put the article on Fred Warner back up on the screen. He was a 3rd round pick. George Kittle, who's a future Hall of Famer as well. I know people would try to argue me on that because there are irrational people out there who, for some reason, like to discredit George Kittle at every chance that they get. Well, sorry, George Kittle is going to be a future Hall of Famer. He was a 5th round pick. So the 49ers have some first-round performers, such as Nick Bosa. And by the way, Bosa made some history today as well. Why don't we get this article back up on the screen as I talk about Warner, the future Hall of Famer? That's a great picture. Ezra Shaw. Credit to Ezra Shaw for that picture. But let's go down here and take a look at this from Nick Bosa today. This is from NFL Next Gen Stats. And, maybe Nick Bosa is a future Hall of Famer too. But I'm going to take that off the screen because right now we're talking about Bosa, not Warner. Bosa led the 49ers pass rush with 9 pressures in week 4, nearly matching his pressure total from weeks 1 to 3. So 9 pressures in one game today from Bosa. And listen to this. He averaged 0.51 seconds on his pass rush get off, the quickest by any defender in a game over the last 7 seasons. 28% pressure rate with those 9 pressures and a 0.51 second average get off. So Bosa was pinning his ears back and getting after it on his pass rushes today. And you know what that tells me? That tells me that the 49ers were stopping the run. This goes back to stop the run and have some fun. My article up on the Standard last week, that was my first quote. Stop the run, have some fun. Arden Key, 2021 49ers, he coined that term for them. They still use it in the room. They didn't stop the run adequately enough in weeks 2 and 3. They stopped the run adequately today, 76 yards for New England. They're a bruising running attack. They're able to tee off against Jacoby Brissett. Take that same formula to next week. See if your defensive tackles can keep on playing at a high level. The big question entering next week, and I haven't talked about this yet today, is Fred Warner. He hurt his ankle, and he missed the entire second half of this football game. Fred couldn't come back to this game. I thought when watching him on the sideline, I thought, he's close to coming back into this football game. Unfortunately for San Francisco, he wasn't able to come back. So there's going to be scans done. We'll see exactly what was wrong with the ankle. Fred Warner has been an Iron Man throughout his NFL career. He's rarely missed time. So I think when he doesn't play, it's definitely something that catches your attention. And he couldn't play here in the second half. So the 49ers were, in a spot where they had to trust Devondre Campbell and Demetrius Flang and Foles, and then D. Winters was the third linebacker down the stretch. And those guys held the standard, credit to them throughout the course of the game. But Fred Warner is a Hall of Fame caliber player. And anytime that you do have a Hall of Fame caliber player, if he's missing, that's a big loss. So we're going to be tracking his status over the course of the next few days ahead of this game against the Arizona Cardinals, especially against a quarterback like Kyler Murray, because Murray's obviously can run. The Arizona Cardinals are obviously dynamic, and Fred Warner is a cornerback, or that's a slip there, but I don't think that it was too accidental. Fred Warner is a linebacker who can cover like a cornerback, who's got the speed, as you saw today, to go sideline to sideline. And I think that can give the 49ers some true adaptability against the Kyler Murrays of the world and the other mobile quarterbacks that they're going to face. So anyway, when you go check out that article, I talk about the 49ers needing to build as a team throughout the marathon. We saw a step in that direction today. I see a lot of cohesion building in that locker room. I saw the summit between Fred Warner and Nick Bosa that I've written about before. Chris Conley played sick today. I think that earned him a lot of appreciation in the 49ers locker room. Kyle Shanahan stopped by Chris Conley, and he had an oblique injury, so they checked in on that. But Kyle Shanahan gave Chris Conley some props after the game. I talked a bit to Dominic Pooney. I mentioned Malik Mustafa. Malik told me that he was a little nervous. He was a little out of sorts when he missed that first third down tackle, but he said that actually helped him get into the flow of the football game. So that was a cool thing to hear. Like, okay, this guy looked like he was a step slow, looked like he was a step tentative on the first tackle that he missed around the edge, but then he settled in his first start at safety. The 49ers also were able to play Renardo Green. They worked him into the lineup for Isaac Yiadom down the stretch of this game. So I think that they're trying to integrate Renardo Green in a similar way as they integrated Malik Mustafa. I'd have to say this rookie class for the 49ers is looking really good to start its tenure. And this was a rookie class that was going to have to look good for San Francisco to build the depth that I was talking about that we've seen from Sam Okuanu and other players. And that rookie class is increasingly becoming part of that depth, which is a great sign for the 49ers as they emerge into October. So we looked at San Francisco in September. They're 2-2. That was a hard pill to swallow in LA. That was a bad loss in LA. There's no if, ands, or buts about it. But that loss to Minnesota was just a loss to a good team. So at the end of the day, they're 2-2 and they should have been 3-1. You say, what the hell? And you move forward. This team should be good enough to overcome one fluky loss in September. And we're going to get to see another measuring stick game against the Arizona Cardinals next week. And it's going to be a short week because then they turn around and play the Seattle Seahawks on the road. I think these next two games can really steer the course of this 2024 season for the 49ers because the stretch gets a lot harder. I think after that, that's when you start talking about Kansas City and you start talking about the Dallas Cowboys, who I get it. They don't look all that great, but Buffalo is on the schedule for the 49ers. The Packers are on the schedule. Today, they had to win because they were playing a worse team, but they also had to show steps in the right direction. And I think the 49ers definitely did that. So what you need to do is check out the San Francisco Standard. Article is up on the screen. Put in your email. Tim also wrote a really, really good article right here on Brock Purdy, who is making history. I wrote the article on the future Hall of Famer, Fred Warner. So make sure you click on both of those articles and go ahead and put your email in. Sign up. You get a prize if you sign up from me. Maybe it's a shout out from me. Maybe it's a shout out. Well, we don't have a comment section yet on the Standard, so no shout outs for you there, but the prize is you're going to get to read the most in-depth 49ers coverage there is. So there you go. Fred Warner, Tim Kawakami, and his article on Brock Purdy. Check it out on the Standard. Link is in the description. Follow me or subscribe on YouTube if you're watching through Twitter so you can see those links. And if you're watching on YouTube, go follow along on Twitter. If you're listening to the podcast, you should do both of those things. 49ers 30, New England Patriots 17. By the way, this is the final score, or no, 30-13 is the final score. Sorry. My prediction was 30-17. So I wasn't that far off. 30-13. Exactly what the 49ers needed. Thanks for watching. We will talk to everybody soon.